You know what I never noticed until right now? When you hit broadcast for on Google Hangouts, it's for up to 8 hours.
Wow.
It's a really long time.
We should try that sometime.
We should never try that ever. That would
We
be
should
terrible.
absolutely try that.
Oh, that would be awful. That would be the worst. That would be not good.
If you want us to try that, please tweet us at the Nats Blog Joe and at Craig Mack.
But only if you will actually watch us for 8 hours.
Yeah. We'll literally start at 8 in the morning, and by the time work's over,
That would be ridiculous.
it'd be awesome.
That would
Greatest thing ever. You can get into our minds on a daily basis as opposed to a 3 weekly basis.
And instead of all the 100,000 messages we send each other every day, we can just talk about it for 8 hours.
You know, that'd actually be way better for us.
That would be. I mean, I would enjoy it. I'm not gonna lie, but that would be a long time to be quote unquote on.
Yeah. I'm never on, though, so it's fine.
Yeah, that's true. You're just you all the time.
This is my resting state.
It's true. So I was since the Washington football team is on like 8 stations right now. I was telling Craig I was flipping through stations, and on Showtime I just happened to catch the replay. I think they're marathoning Homeland, so I was starting from the beginning, and we almost didn't get started on time because I got distracted for about 20 minutes.
It's got major winners, so it's fine with me.
Exactly. When you texted me and was like, so 8:30, I was like, oh shit. I probably need to start getting stuff together.
Yeah.
But now I'm watching Blue Jays and the Peter Angelos team.
Yeah. And we've already got our first tweet saying that someone will listen for 8 hours.
Nice. But we better have some sweet segments. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to talk about we haven't recorded. I don't know when the last time was, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, I think it was a week before the trade. I don't even know.
No, it has to be longer.
Mid-July.
Yeah, it has to be longer than a week before the trade deadline. But a lot of stuff has happened since then, and so we're going to forego the format because we really, it's a lot of work, and so we decided not to do the format. So we're just going to talk about baseball for an hour.
Oh, I love talking about baseball for like an hour.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Let's do it.
Let's start with trade deadline since it's the thing that's freshest in our minds. Nationals made 2 acquisitions, one at the deadline and one post-deadline. The Nationals landed Asdrubal Cabrera from the Cleveland Indians for really nothing.
Yeah. The Nationals traded away Zach Walters, who has, I'm going to go ahead and say, impressed a little bit at the major league level. He is, I think the best way I explained it was Adam Dunn light.
Yeah.
He's better defense, obviously, than Adam Dunn, but he's a home run, strikeout, rarely walk guy. So not near as good as Adam Dunn. But there wasn't much upside. You kind of saw what Zach Walters was. He was going to, everyone on Twitter was saying, oh, well, he struck out. That's pretty much what you're going to expect from Zach Walters, and every now and then he's going to run into one. So the Nationals were able to turn him into a shortstop who is going to be a free agent at the end of the season and whom the Cleveland Indians are paying his salary.
All of it.
Yeah. So the Nationals gave up Zach Walters, who was a bench piece, if that even, for their starting second baseman against right-handed pitchers.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's interesting. You always have these kinds of cases where a player comes to the major league and starts lighting the world on fire and no one saw it coming. See Roark, Tanner.
Yeah.
But it happened, and we'll talk about that, but it happens pretty infrequently. It's very rare that you get this, and even by watching Zach Walters when he came up, first of all, the defense is terrible. We've known the defense has been terrible forever. It's not good. And he has some versatility, which is always valuable. He could play a few different positions. Granted, they're below average defense positions, but he could fill the role and kind of go ahead and do it. But like you said, the offense just isn't there. He's never going to get a lot of contact. He's going to strike out all the time. Occasionally, he's going to run into one. And when you could do that for I don't really care about this, but a former two-time All-Star, a guy who can play is a shortstop. He hasn't played at second base at any length really since his rookie year and the year after. And you could get that kind of guy to help you get through and kind of, nobody's going to replace Ryan Zimmerman, which is why this deal was made in the first place, since Ryan Zimmerman is going to be out at least until September, probably well into September, if he comes back at all. So, right. And that's what made this deal happen. So you're not going to replace him, but it's definitely a positive, like you said, especially against right-handed pitching. Right. I think, when I first reported that the Nationals had interest in Asdrubal Cabrera, well, when I first, regurgitated a report and kind of gave my 2 cents on it, I said this would be a great deal because you could have Cabrera most of the time, because most of the time you're going to have right-handed starting pitchers. But against the occasional left-handed starter, you have Danny Espinosa come in, who is an above-average hitter against lefties, and you have an awesome second base platoon.
Absolutely.
With plus defense with both guys.
Where you're, for the two of them, paying Danny Espinosa's salary.
Yeah, which is not a lot, excuse me.
So it's a good deal, and I remember when the trade happened about an hour before the trade deadline last week, I was texting with Joe, and I said something along the lines of, I don't love Cabrera, but I love the deal.
Exactly.
The deal is phenomenal. The Nats are getting a ton out of it without giving up too much. And Rizzo kind of went off of form a little bit. He does not like to trade assets for a rental for someone who's going to be a free agent at the end of the season, kind of a mercenary type player. So this is one of the first one of those he's actually done. But he really, honestly, like we said, didn't give up too much for it. And in all reality, the only other player who would have been a better get for the Nationals would have been Ben Zobrist from the Tampa Bay Rays, who had been baseball's best team since the beginning of June. So They weren't going to trade that valuable asset, especially when they were trading David Price to the Tigers.
Right.
So the Nationals were able to get the best middle infielder on the trade market for, a pittance.
Yeah, and especially because they're not paying him at all.
Right.
I think that it says a lot about what Mike Rizzo thought about what Cabrera could bring to the team, and I also think it says a lot about what Rizzo thought about what Zach Walters could bring.
Right, and I've heard reports that the Indians absolutely love Zach Walters.
Yeah, and maybe they have there's something that they think that he can do that Mike Rizzo doesn't, but I think it says a lot about what Rizzo thinks about Walters because, as you said, Mike Rizzo doesn't rent players for 2 months, 3 months, and so I think that yes, they really wanted and kind of got to a point where they needed Cabrera because you really didn't want to have Danny Espinosa playing every day at second base.
No,
but you also it could be, and this is kind of what you want in these deals, right? You don't always want to have the Doug Fister trade where the other team just gets bent over in it. You want it to be a fair trade. You don't want to end up screwing the team, and so hopefully down the road Zach Walters will get something together, and it will be of benefit to Cleveland. The Nationals don't really have a need for a power-hitting middle infielder unless they don't plan on signing Ian Desmond. Danny Espinosa won't be a free agent until 2018. So he's got some time left with the Nats as well. So, I like the deal, and you hope that it works out both ways, honestly.
Oh, absolutely.
That's just the right way to go. And to answer the question, I looked it up while you were talking. For the Nationals' second base kind of platoon, they're paying $540,000.
There you go.
That's what Danny Espinosa is making this season. And
well, there it is.
Cabrera's free.
So 2 months of 540,000.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. And the Nationals were able to make a second trade. We've seen in the past several times that Mike Rizzo really likes to play the August waiver wire deals.
Yep.
Brought the Nationals Kurt Suzuki, who very nicely cruised the team into a 2012 NL East Division title at backstop. He was able to acquire left-handed relief pitcher Matt Thornton from the Yankees, and I don't, off the top of my head, know the terms of the deal. I believe it was just either a player to be named or cash.
I think it was neither. I think it was just a waiver wire pickup.
Was it just a waiver wire?
Yeah,
So,
I was wondering the same thing, and I think that it was simply a waiver wire pickup.
okay.
The Yankees were like, okay, goodbye, and the Nats picked them up.
Well, there we go. The Nationals acquired a 37-year-old left-handed reliever who throws 97.
Yeah, this is the thing that's so incredible to me, that somebody who's 37 years old is still throwing 97 miles an hour as a lefty.
Yeah, he's throwing gas.
It's weird, right? It's like, that's not normal.
Yeah, he's got, I believe his ERA is somewhere around 2.3, and he's come in, I believe, twice thus far for the Nationals, and he's been highly effective. I believe he gave up a run-scoring single the other night, but I don't believe it was a very hard-hit ball at all. But
well, it wasn't. It was an inherited runner.
Right. Okay.
So it wasn't his. It didn't go towards his ERA. He has an ERA just below 2.5 and an FIP at 2.74.
Yeah, he is a hard-throwing lefty, and he is much more effective against left-handed batters than Jerry Blevins has been so far this season.
Yeah, well, the value that I think that Thornton actually brings is hey against lefties. He's really been bad against righties. Really bad. And the thing that Matt Thornton's been able to do this year is be pretty good against both lefties and righties.
Right.
Righties are only hitting 237 against Thornton, which is actually lower batting average than he has against lefties. So
Wow.
I think that that's the thing that is impressive.
So he's supposed to be what Jerry Blevins was
supposed to be, right. It turns out that this year Blevins has had a lot of trouble doing anything except for retiring left-handed batters.
Right.
And so when he gets left in for the righty, that's when he tends to get into some trouble. So it was an interesting pickup. A couple of people on Twitter have joked that, well, it's the magic formula because in 2012 the Nationals had 3 left-handed relievers in the bullpen, so that's why they picked up Matt Thornton, because now they have 3 left-handed relievers in the bullpen.
Well, there you go.
So that's the magic formula. But I liked the Thornton pickup. It's interesting because now Blevins and Thornton team control this year and next year.
Very nice.
So that's weird. I don't imagine that's going to stay that way. I imagine one of those two guys will be dealt in the offseason.
Joe, I will give you $1 if you can name all 3 of the Nats left-handed relievers from 2012.
Oh, from 2012?
Yep, do it.
Oh, boy, that's putting me on the spot.
Yeah, it happened.
Zach Duke.
Yep.
Mike Gonzalez.
Wait, yep, Zach Duke. Yeah, I think he was.
Zach Duke, Mike Gonzalez, and boy, that's hard.
Hold on, I'm going to pull it up real quick.
Is Tom Gorzalani a lefty?
Yes, he is.
Those are my 3.
Okay.
Did I get it?
I'm checking. Hold on.
Okay, get there. Or somebody who's listening out faster than Craig, just tweet us.
Yeah, that's probably faster.
But I like the Matt Thornton pickup. The fact that he could throw hard, it's weird to me that the Yankees let him go. To be totally honest, I don't know why they wouldn't bring him back, bring back the money, pull him back off of waivers. Maybe it's a money situation. I mean, it's the Yankees.
Jesus. I just saw something that was just absolutely crazy and just blew my mind.
What's that?
So I'm not sure what the exact roster was or the exact third lefty was, but I do know that Sean Burnett was a national.
Yeah, that's what Jacko Beam just tweeted at us and said Duke, Gonzalez, Gorzo, and Burnett. I completely forgot about Sean Burnett.
Yeah, but do you remember who the Nationals closer was to start that season?
To start that year,
Yeah,
Brad Lidge.
Brad Lidge.
Yep.
Do you remember that he was the National?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so crazy.
For about a minute.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, pretty funny.
Oh, I know. Okay, I'm sorry.
Then Henry Rodriguez tried it for a while too.
Oh, Henry Rodriguez. Oh yeah.
Fun times, throwbacks. So, yeah, the Mike Thornton deal, I think it's a good deal, especially if
I see you, Jacko. Okay, all right. I see you. You don't have to do that. That's not cool.
Yes, it is. There's nothing about Jacko that's not cool.
I don't know.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
He does live in Braves country.
Yeah. So, yeah, the thing that I have to mention in this podcast is I haven't looked up the record. Maybe he can share it with us as he listens to the podcast. But since he's moved to Braves country, the Nationals have been awesome. I'm just saying. Since he left the D.C. metropolitan area, all of the curly. So I don't think that's an accident.
That's fine.
So Thornton is making $3.5 million next season, and he's made $3.5 million. That's a salary this year. I don't know what exactly the Nationals will end up owing, somewhere around $1 million.
Yeah.
So $4.5 million for a guy that has put up good numbers basically throughout his career, and he's been much better lately.
Yeah.
So despite the fact that he's 37.
I know. He was very impressive.
Doesn't make any sense. But his career ERA is just below 3.5. His career FIP is 3.38. His career ERA is 28% above league average. So better than league average, not above, better than. So it's good to have a guy like that as a lefty out there, and who knows, but I imagine that either he or Jerry Blevins will probably end up disappearing from the roster before the 2015 season, but that's neither here nor there. We have a lot of time to talk about that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that I want to talk about, and I feel like every podcast that we've done this season, I've brought this up, but I'm just going to do it again.
It's fine.
How fucking good is Tanner Roark?
Tanner Roark is really good.
It doesn't make any sense.
But I want to, real quick, just an aside, if I may. The Nationals got Doug Fister for a prospect and Steve Lombardozzi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Ian Kroll, right? Is he still on that team?
Yeah, but he's got like I want to say he's got around a 5 ERA.
Yeah, I mean, that was, but on the flip side, Dave Dombrowski got David Price for Drew Smiley.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good.
So anyway, Tanner Roark. I was talking about this with Joe earlier today. Dave Cameron from Fangraphs just wrote a phenomenal, glowing piece.
That's why I brought it up. Yep.
On Tanner Roark and how phenomenal his season has been. And it's amazing that he went through his Baseball Reference comparable players through the age, and one of his comparables is Vance Worley, who was amazing for the Phillies a couple years ago, and then dreadful since. But the other one, and the closest, was actually Doug Fister, which I found pretty interesting. And if the Nationals were able to get Tanner Roark, who might be Doug Fister, for Christian Guzman, for 2 months of Christian Guzman, wow.
Yeah. Christian Guzman, who I think in those last 2 months, if I remember correctly, I looked back, he played like 15 games in those final 2 months.
Negative .7 WAR.
Yeah. So that would be an unbelievable coup. And it's I'm sold on Tanner Roark, but I'm still not there yet.
Right.
It's a season is a lot of time, and
He's got
he's been
200 innings, and the article points out that his ERA minus is within, I think it's number 6 overall of all pitchers in baseball, among the likes of Clayton Kershaw. I think he's ahead of Felix Hernandez,
yeah,
and Zach Greinke. So he's even being mentioned amongst those names.
which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ridiculous company. And the thing that Dave Cameron tweeted that kind of pointed me to the article said guys like Roark are one of the reasons why I think quote upside close quote is so overrated for pitching prospects. We don't know anyone's upside.
Right.
And that you could do everything you can. And he followed up and said throwing 99 and having a nasty breaking ball obviously helps. See Stephen Strasburg. But 88 at the top of the zone works too if you can locate. And that's what what Tanner Roark has been able to do all year. And even looking back into the end of last year, his command is unreal.
And I just want to point out, I'm not comparing the pitchers, but Greg Maddux never had a hammer anything.
Right.
He never had a top 5 pitch in all of baseball. Cliff Lee never had a top 5 pitch in baseball. They have the ability to pinpoint the corner, pick their location exactly where they want to throw it, when they want to throw it. That combined with a good game plan made them incredibly effective pitchers. Greg Maddux, Hall of Famer. Cliff Lee, multiple Cy Young contender, just a phenomenal major league pitcher because of command. And that's it. The stuff was good. It wasn't outstanding. They didn't blow anyone away with 98 plus. They just knew where they wanted to throw it, and they knew how to miss bats. And that's something that Tanner Roark has been able to do so far in his 200 plus innings in the major leagues. He hasn't done it with stuff. He's done it with pitching.
Yeah, he's done it with the ability to locate a pitch. I mean, it's not like you said. He has the worst stuff in that rotation in terms of raw stuff. In terms of a great fastball, a great curveball, a great change. He has none of those pitches, but none of them are great. But he's able to use them. And if you can do that, I mean, that is a huge part. Most people can't do that. Like a guy like Stephen Strasburg can get by on stuff. A guy like Tanner Roark can't get by on stuff.
No.
And that's what has made it so impressive that he's been able to continue to string it together for so long. Tanner Roark, if this last year isn't an anomaly, and Tanner Roark is able to keep an ERA or even around 3 for the next couple of years, do you know how long the Nationals have him under team control?
Let's see, 2019?
Through the end of the 2019 season.
Nailed it.
That's what?
Yes. So
that's 5.5 years.
So the Dave Cameron article that we just referred to on Fangraphs, which once again everyone should go take a look at, he says something along the lines of, right now his local peak value, which is his trade value right this second, is the highest it is projected to be ever.
And he's in his first full major league season.
Right. And it was, if going into the 2015 season, regardless of what happens through the rest of this season, everyone will be saying Tanner Roark is a prime candidate for regression. He is not going to keep this up. But Dave Cameron says if he is able to do this again in 2015, his value will be sky high for years.
Yeah, and doing it, I think it's kind of fallen by the wayside. And people are starting to notice Tanner Roark. You have an ERA around 2.5 for long enough, people are going to take notice. But that's the thing. If he could do this for a full season and he can do it for next season, I could completely agree. It's going to be scary valuable. And the thing is, the Nationals aren't going to have to do anything about it for 4 more seasons after next year.
Right.
I mean, that is insane. They'll deal with arbitration at the end of 2016 into the 2017 season, but that's
maybe.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously considering that he stays with the big club and everything else. But that is awesome, and he continues to impress. And I am a believer when I see the way that he pitches. He stays calm. He repeats his delivery. His delivery is very repeatable, and he just does the same thing every time, and it continues to baffle hitters despite the fact that his stuff is not baffling.
Absolutely. And while we're talking about the rotation, I mean, we mentioned Doug Fister a little bit. You take his first start of the season in Oakland out of the picture, and he's got a 2 ERA, and he's just been an ace. He's been better than advertised, and he's just been one of those pickups that's just – we talked about it before. How was Mike Rizzo able to get this package for Doug Fister? And he is being that pitcher and more. Meanwhile, Jordan Zimmermann is continuing his ways. He had another phenomenal appearance today that was blown once again by a couple bloops.
And that stuff, that kind of BABIP stuff is going to happen.
That's just baseball. And then you've got Steven Strasburg, who went through a little bit of a lull, but one of the things Dave Nichols from Nationals District Sport page has been saying a lot. Steven Strasburg had elbow surgery in the offseason. He had, some, what do they call it, floating bodies removed from his elbow this past offseason. It can take this long to feel comfortable again after surgery. And so he might be getting to So he might be getting to a point where he's not feeling like he's forcing it, where he's feeling like he can just let it go and kind of whip the ball. And the results, I believe his last 2 outings have been really stellar and what we've come to expect from Steven Strasburg. So the pitching staff, the starting rotation, might have gone through a little bit of a lull here or there, but the Nationals haven't lost a lot of games in a row because of their pitching. And it all starts with the starting rotation.
Yeah, the last 2 starts for Strasburg, by the way, in Philadelphia a few days ago on August 3rd, 7 innings, no runs, 3 hits over 7 innings, 10 strikeouts. And against the Marlins on the 29th, the start before, 7 innings, 1 earned run on 4 hits, and only 4 strikeouts, which is rare. But but he still, over 7 innings, gave up a run on 4 hits. That's what you expect from your number 1 starter.
Yep.
Everybody's going to go through a period. If you remember back, was it 2000? It must have been 2012 when Jordan Zimmermann was, a Cy Young conversation until August.
Yep.
He was killing it, and then he hit a bit of a period where he wasn't pitching the way that Jordan Zimmermann was capable of pitching, and unfortunately, it actually went into the playoffs a little bit. Besides that awesome relief appearance, but his start in the playoffs was rough. He kind of had a rough go of it the last 2 months of the season. That's going to happen, but I think the point that Dave Nichols has been making is extremely valid. Steven Strasburg had elbow surgery this offseason. No, it's not Tommy John surgery, but they still cut out the elbow and took stuff out of there. That takes time to recover to get to 100%. And you're right, that might be happening now. He's been good throughout the year, but maybe this is the turnaround that he needed.
Yeah, and it's not like he was a terrible pitcher up until this point. He's had
a couple of bad starts, but everybody does.
By WAR, he has been the Nationals' most valuable pitcher.
Yes.
And it's, he is among the league leaders in pitching this season.
Yeah.
And it's definitely deserved. So, Yeah, let's see. Let's talk about more happy things. About 2 months ago, um, Denard Span was hitting about 245,
Yeah.
250, just floundering. Somewhere his on base percentage, I want to say, was somewhere around 310.
Yeah, it was like
Maybe
310 or 312.
maybe yeah, pushing 320, not even very good. There was a lot of talk when Bryce Harper first came back. He said, I want to play center field. I think we'd have a better shot to win. And it was a big controversy, blah, blah, blah. Bryce Harper says something, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Since that point, since Jacko Beam moved to Braves country, Denard Span has been the best center fielder in baseball. You had a phenomenal post on this on the Nats blog.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell the people just some tidbits of the things you found out? Denard Span, who, by the way, went 4 for 6 today and is now hitting 300 on the season.
Yeah, ridiculous. Denard Span, like you said, since the beginning of July, has been on fire. So at the end of last season, he kind of caught on in August. This season, it's a month earlier that he's kind of caught on. And he has, by WAR, been the most valuable center fielder in Major League Baseball since July 1st. Now, in case you don't remember who plays center field in Major League Baseball, that includes Mike Trout, who is the best player in Major League Baseball. That includes Andrew McCutchen. That includes Carlos Gomez.
Andrew McCutchen, last year's NL MVP, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Carlos Gomez, top 3 finalists for NL MVP last year.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so Denard Span has been that good.
Better than that good.
He's been. The reason I looked into it is because a lot of people had been talking about how good Span had been. He's putting up these crazy numbers. He has this on base percentage on this on base streak and the whole thing. I was like, well, let's look and see how good he really is compared to the rest of the league. The answer is the best center fielder in Major League Baseball since July 1st.
Right.
The only person since July is since. This is as of my post yesterday. The only person in Major League Baseball with a higher on-base percentage is Jose Abreu, who is going to run away with the AL Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
just sprint away, and is probably going to get all P votes, to be totally honest.
Yeah. Oh, he absolutely should. He's not going to win because Mike Trout exists.
Finally. But Denard Span has been, as much as people have been praising Denard Span, he's been better than anybody thinks. he's been, everybody's like, oh yeah, he's so great. He's been one of the top 4 players in Major League Baseball by wins above replacement.
Yep.
Since July 1st.
And Mark Simon, a statistician for ESPN.com, he posts some defensive statistics on his Twitter handle often. And Denard Span is, I believe, top 3 center field defensive player in all of baseball in terms of route efficiency and, the ability to catch fly balls that he really doesn't have any business catching.
Yeah, he's been – everything about him has been good. He's got an on-base percentage on the season now. Like you said, he's hitting 300. He's got an on-base percentage on the season now at 355, despite through 3 months of the season being barely above 300. That's insane to be able to move in that direction.
And it's made all the difference for the Nationals.
Oh yeah, I gave a hard time a lot at the beginning of the year. There was a lot. People said, "Well, when Denard Span and Anthony Rendon get on base, but in the same game, the Nationals' winning percentage is ridiculously high." Well,
we talked about the cherry picking stats,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a cherry picking stat, but there is when you're on base, when your leadoff hitter is getting on base over 350, that is a recipe for success any way you look at it. You're going to succeed. You're very likely to succeed in that situation because you have the team that you're facing on edge from very early in a game, and that's huge. Despite the fact that Anthony Rendon has had some not bad at all games, just not what he was like at the beginning of the season games, but the Nationals have been able to keep going because Denard Span has been picking up the slack for him and many, many other people. It's crazy how good he's been.
Yep.
So I like this. This is the happy pod.
It's a
So
great pod. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Bryce Harper.
Yes. That's exactly where I wanted to go. I don't have much to say on Bryce Harper.
No, me either.
Just that since he's come back from injury, he's got a 375 on base percentage, and he is just about locked in, as evidenced by his heroics today. So anyone that has been calling for him to go down, I ask, who else? Who would you have take Bryce Harper's place?
Nobody.
I mean, no, seriously. Who do these people think is going
Yeah.
to take Bryce Harper's place? Nate McLouth?
Yeah, Steven Souza.
Steven Souza?
Yeah.
Who as great as he has been at AAA,
Exactly. Thank you.
he of the 1,035 OPS at AAA hasn't ever shown it in the majors. Not necessarily to his own fault. He just hasn't done it.
Right. Well,
So-
and the thing that's incredible to me about people who say things like send it to the minors. And by the way, two things I want to say about that. About the whole conversation about Bryce Harper, people saying that Bryce Harper should be sent down to AAA to figure it out and whatever, which is ridiculous. Kudos to Matt Williams for reaming out the people that kind of started that whole conversation. I think that's awesome that he would defend Bryce Harper. Stupid. I don't know why you would ever say that. And kudos to apparently in the post-game press conference today, Matt Williams apologized. I saw he was like, basically sorry for reaming you all. And
Yeah.
I don't remember who it was, but I saw a reporter that was there on Twitter saying, for the record, I don't understand why Matt Williams apologized. He was not in the wrong.
Right.
It was kind of one of those things. But to see Bryce Harper, first of all, he has not looked good at the plate. Despite the fact that his numbers look good, he's looked extremely uncomfortable.
Right.
He could not catch up to a fastball.
No.
He can't do it. He had a broken hand, torn ligament. Which one was it?
Torn ligament in a finger. In his
Zimmerman with a
thumb.
broken hand. Yeah. So that takes a long time to recover from.
Yeah.
And the power is the last thing to come back. And so when Harper's having trouble getting around on fastball, especially a 96-mile-an-hour fastball or whatever, that's understandable. But to see him today fight off pitches and take that ball the other way, you could literally see like a crane lifting a ton of weight off of his shoulders as he was rounding the bases.
Yep.
You could see it in his face. His shoulders dropped.
He had that
see the
beautiful
relaxation.
fist pump / point coming around third.
Exactly. And that might mean that tomorrow in Atlanta he's going to swing for the fences and at every pitch he sees. But you know what? I'm happy to see him kind of get that positive. He's needed it desperately, and the Nationals need him to be on, and they need him to be hitting for some power. I hope he doesn't push it, but being able to take that and go the opposite way to end a game that the Nationals really wanted to win after kind of blowing it towards the end. It was awesome. And it's not just because I'm a Nationals fan. I like Bryce Harper. I like him just like a lot of people don't like Yasiel Puig. I love Yasiel Puig. I love the kind of thing that guy brings to baseball. It's an excitement every time you see him. And to see Harper do what he did today, it was awesome. I was obviously not one of the people kind of calling for Harper to be sent down to the minor leagues. I think that he is still a generational talent. There's so many times. Byron Kerr had an awesome tweet about this.
He's
right
what,
after
21?
Run, he said Bryce Harper's 21 years old, and Byron Kerr said, just like the good old days when he was 20 or 19.
Yep.
And I was like, that is the best tweet. People are like, oh, Harper's been such a letdown. He still has could potentially have a 20-year career ahead of him.
Yeah. And you want to hear can I drop something in real quick?
Yeah.
The Cubs just brought up one of their top prospects, Javi Baez, who,
Yes.
by the way, has 3 home runs so far.
What, in 3 days? In 3 days?
In 3 days.
Yeah.
2 today. Granted, Colorado, but he is
Oh,
amazing.
it doesn't matter.
It really doesn't matter,
It doesn't
at
matter.
all. Up
Well,
until
maybe in that he's pitching,
May I?
but
This is the first time in Bryce Harper's career, that he is not the youngest player in baseball, thanks to
yeah,
Javi Baez. This is the first time. What was it? Monday was the first time that Bryce Harper wasn't the youngest player in baseball.
yeah. Bryce Harper, who has well more than a year of service time.
Oh God, he came up in 12.
Yeah, I'm looking at. I just pulled up his BBREF page, and I knew it couldn't make sense. He has like 1.1 years of service time, but that's as of January of this year. So he now has, he close to 2 years of service time.
Yeah.
And this is the first time in his career he's not the youngest guy in Major League Baseball. It feels like he's been around forever. And Steven Strasburg is subject to this too.
Right.
People like, oh, it just feels like they've been around forever. And Strasburg has 2 more years on Harper, despite the fact that he missed the year to Tommy John surgery, but he's still 25.
Right.
There is so much potential, especially with Strasburg kind of moving on to a different topic just for a second. There are so many pitchers with Strasburg's type of stuff that did not figure it out until they were 30.
Yep.
Not everybody's going to be Felix or Kershaw or Verlander or that have all their great years up until they're 28.
Right.
That's really uncommon. So give the Nationals young stars a break. They are young stars. They're really young.
Yep.
True story.
Yep.
What else?
I guess I was saving it for the potpourri section of the.
Go for it. We don't have a potpourri section.
I'm sorry, the
whole
minutia,
podcast is
the minutia section.
Well, the whole podcast is potpourri this week.
Yeah,
so
that's pretty true. Baseball is in trouble.
Yeah.
In a very real way, in a very serious way that could damage baseball for a long, long, long time. And it is, once again, thanks to Bud Selig.
Because of?
Because Bud Selig awarded the Nationals television rights to the Orioles in the form of Mid-Atlantic Sports Network. For those of you that haven't been following, which if you're crazy enough and stupid enough to listen to this podcast, you will probably already know, the Nationals and Orioles have been battling in courtrooms / arbitration hearings for quite some time over the Nationals wanting to be paid the market value for the rights to broadcast their games, which, if you've been paying attention, is somewhere around $80 to $100 million a season in terms of market value, based on what the majority of clubs are getting these days. The Nationals are getting about $30 million, and that's partially helped by Major League Baseball itself cutting checks.
Right. Major League Baseball, in order to make the Orioles happy, have been paying the Nationals more money because the Orioles and MASN aren't paying them anymore.
Right. So the Orioles, MASN, which once again one and the same, and Nationals went to an arbitration hearing where they all agreed to observe and say, we agree that whatever arbitration decision it is, it will be final, and that will be it. And we will observe that, and we will acknowledge it, and that will be it. The Nationals won.
Right.
And the Nationals were saying, you need to pay us more money. The Orioles said no.
Right.
Despite the fact that they had previously agreed to acknowledge and respect the decision. So as of this afternoon, they have received a stay of that arbitration hearing, and it is going to I believe it's the New York the New York Circuit Court?
Nope, the New York State Supreme Court.
All right, thanks. Whatever it is. Where the decision will ultimately be rendered what happens with the Nationals' TV rights. Honestly, I don't know what you think, but I think the only outcome of this will be that the Nationals will buy out the Orioles and sell to the highest bidder.
I mean, that makes sense. The problem is that the buyouts for a whole lot of years, the Nationals are supposed to be under Masson's umbrella for like 20 more years or something.
Right.
So the buyout would have to be for a significant amount of money. The thing is, the Nationals will probably make that back with their new deal in about 2 years.
Yes.
So, whatever that amount of money is, it will be a sizable amount. But I hadn't really given it much thought because it's whatever is going to happen is going to happen. But I think that's a valid thing. I think the only way that it happens is they say, short of the Supreme Court literally saying, the New York State Supreme Court literally saying, okay, Orioles, you're going to have to do this, or Nationals, you're just going to have to suck it up. They're going to have to come up with a way to have a financial incentive. Say,
right.
Listen, we'll pay you this lump sum payment of $200 million, $250 million, whatever they decide that it is, and just let us go.
Yeah.
Because the Nationals have to do it.
They have to.
In the next couple of years, the Nationals are going to owe a lot of people a lot of money.
Yes.
A lot of money.
Right, and they're making nothing on their TV deal right now because of Bud Selig.
Now, the Lerners are literally the wealthiest people in Washington, D.C.
They are the wealthiest owners in baseball.
Yeah. So they have money, but, in my opinion, just because they have money doesn't mean they should pay money. The Nationals are a business. They're an investment, and they want to see a return on that investment.
Absolutely.
It's totally unfair of them to say, well, then you just keep on paying all of your just to keep them around when you're making $30 million a year in television, when the average rate is, like you said, 100 and whatever million.
When they could with somehow make more than that.
Exactly.
And it's with it. They need to do their due diligence and get whatever they can, because that is how it is. If you're not satisfied in your job and someone's offering to pay you more money, you're going to take it.
Exactly.
Because that's the way the world works. Anyway, the reason why baseball is in such trouble is because back in the early 20th century, Major League Baseball was granted by the U.S. government an antitrust exemption, which essentially was a license to print money.
Right.
And never have to worry about anything in terms of their overall security as an organization.
Right.
Whereas the National Football League, the National Hockey League, the National Basketball Association were never granted this, ever. This is something that baseball and baseball alone has.
Right.
This ruling, this issue, taking it to court, challenges that.
And this is why, from the beginning, Bud Selig, sent letters to the Lerners and and Peter Angelos and said, "Don't take this to court. You will regret it." It's because he's horrified that it could be sent to court, and his regime towards the end could be responsible for basically, like you said, eliminating their free reign of baseball in the world.
This would change baseball as we know it. This one ruling between Masson and the Nationals could change the face of baseball. Don't ask me how. I don't know exactly how. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not that familiar with copyright and patent law and antitrust laws, but I do know that the ramifications are huge. And there's a reason why Bud Selig is sending, please don't ever, ever, ever take this to court, letters to the Nationals and the Orioles.
And it's more than just cosmetic.
Right.
It's more than it's going to make us look bad.
Yeah, it's much more than a PR issue. This is a foundation of baseball issue. And if it goes to court, which it's looking like it will, this could have incredible ramifications for all of baseball. So keep an eye on that, because this is the biggest story that no one's talking about.
And in fairness, people are finally starting to, outside of DC, there's a notice happening, around. I've seen stuff, like even outside of, Kilgore's great tweets about it and everything else. There have been conversations that are finally starting to happen, but this is a battle that's been happening for 3 years.
Oh yeah.
This is not new. So it will be very interesting. I don't imagine a decision will be rendered quickly, but once it is, like you said, it could have huge implications for what it is. Do you have a gut feeling on what's going to end up happening?
I have a gut feeling that
I mean, besides the fact that they have to pay out, like, do you have a gut feeling? Do you think that something like that will happen, or like, what do you think will actually happen?
I think that a payout will happen before a decision will be rendered.
Okay.
I think it just has to. I think
Right.
Bud Selig will use whatever clout he has left, whatever power, whatever favors he has left to keep this from happening. I think this to baseball is more important to Bud Selig than handpicking us a next commissioner, which will happen in the next week and a half, by the way.
Yeah, that's coming.
But I think this issue to Bud Selig is more important than that.
Yeah.
So I think that he will use whatever he's got left to render a decision outside of the courts, just so they can avoid the nasty battle that will incur. But I foresee an agreement where the Orioles or the Nationals buy out Matson or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think that sounds fair. I hadn't given much thought into it. Whether it happens with the Nationals winning a court case or a buyout happening, I would imagine in the next few years that the Nationals are on a different network.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the next couple, maybe
it's going to be
years,
it could be next year.
It could be. I would give it a couple years, but I think the Nationals will. Not saying that the Nationals are going to create a network. They're going to go to Comcast Sportsnet or Fox Sports or something like that and said, hey, we'll give you the rights to our network for the next 20 years, pay us money, and whatever, and go from there.
Yep.
I'd love to see the Nationals on Comcast Sportsnet Mid-Atlantic. I think that would be fantastic with the Wizards and the Caps and get all three of them on one network. I think that'd be awesome.
I think it would be great for. I think it would be great for the area because right now, if you turn on Comcast Sportsnet, you see Redskins, Washington football team.
Thank you.
You see Wizards and you see Capitals. You never see Nats talk unless it's Mark Zuckerman.
I was just going to say, unless it's Mark Zuckerman and Chase Hughes, but other than that, there's not much going on in terms of Nationals content.
So, but yeah, I thought that deserves to be mentioned on the pod.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad that you brought it up. That's a good way to kind of wrap up because it is important, and so you should, there are a lot of good tweets coming out. Michelle, a Nats fan on Twitter.
I like a Nats fan.
Yeah.
She's wonderful.
She's one of my faves, and she has been tweeting quite a bit of stuff from people across baseball with the news, so give her a follow. She tweets some good stuff. She also takes great pictures and tweets those frequently, so you should follow her too.
Well, that's
So yeah, you have anything else to add before we wrap up?
I did, but honestly, I can't remember right now.
No, that's fair. We'll be back eventually. I would say that we'll be back next week, but I've proven to be a pretty big liar, so I'm just not going to promise that.
Yeah, that's fair. But hey, I got a gnome.
Oh, nice! You got a gnome. You didn't sell it for $150?
I kind of wanted to.
Yeah, I know. It's tempting.
I'm way too nice of a person.
Yeah.
And I know there are Nats fans out there that follow me and I follow on Twitter that probably would want it, and I would feel like an ass if I didn't just hook them up.
Good for you.
For instance, our friend Nick in South Carolina, he will be getting one of my gnomes.
Who?
Nick.
Oh, yeah, I figured as much.
Nick will get a gnome.
Nick got my Wilson Ramos bobblehead literally 5 minutes before Wilson Ramos signed said bobblehead.
Yeah, that's pretty baller. Let's see. The Braves have a tough schedule. We haven't even mentioned the Nationals have I think it's National League lead, or biggest division lead in baseball. Is that correct?
They have the biggest division lead in baseball, tied with the Orioles right now. The Orioles are 4 games up. Oh, never mind. As of this minute, games up, right? So
4.5, I believe the Nationals are up, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. And I think as of right now, the Orioles are 4 up. So I think you're right. The Nationals have the biggest division lead in Major League Baseball.
Which, that's crazy.
A lot of parity in baseball, man.
There's a
this year.
lot
It's
of
awesome.
parity this season. It's very nice to see. One of the coolest things is have not lost 5 games in a row.
I'm sorry, you cut out. You cut out at one of the things that's cool is.
One of the things that I really like about the Nationals and the way they're going about the season this season is they haven't gone on huge winning streaks. They haven't gone on huge losing streaks. They've been incredibly consistent.
I completely agree.
They have won 2 out of 3. They have won 6 out of 10 consistently. They haven't done it flashy. They haven't done it bad. They win 6 out of 10 consistent.
And that's a 600 winning percentage, which is going to win you 90 games and get you in the playoffs. But I completely agree. I talk to people about this all the time. You know, the Braves, when they went on that 9-game winning streak, and the Nationals only gained I don't know what it was. The Braves went on a nine-game winning streak. I'm going to leave it at that because we're running out of time. So, but now they've lost 8 in a row.
Right.
They keep streaking in this crazy way. The Nationals, just like you said, keep winning 6 out of 10. Keep winning 6 out of 10. And
they'll lose 2 ugly, then they'll win 3.
Yep. My thing is keep splitting 4-game series and winning 3-game series, and they're just going to run away with it.
Yeah. And right now, they are.
And that's what's so important. All of a sudden, you know, all the national media, there's a ton of stories now about the Nationals. Oh, the Nationals, biggest lead, because people weren't paying attention, and all of a sudden the Nationals had a surge. But like you said, they didn't do it flashy. It was, you know, they'd win 2 and then they'd lose 1, and then they'd win 3 and then they'd lose 2, and then they'd win 4 and then they'd lose 2. You know, it'd be like they just keep on piecing these wins together. And I would much rather, like you said, see a team just kind of consistently be above average than have a period of greatness and a period of being awful.
Yep.
I completely agree. I think consistent play is a recipe for success more than anything else.
It's very calculated and professional.
I agree.
So, it's as frustrating as maybe going to Nome Night and seeing the Nationals lose their 2nd straight against, you know, BABIP.
Right. Not really against the team that they were playing. It really was against numbers.
You're right. Seeing luck against the Nationals sucks.
Right.
But understanding that it's a big picture and that the big picture is looking very good right now.
Yep.
Is making it all worthwhile. And it's kind of one of these, you put in a good, hard day's work, and at the end you're going to be rewarded. And right now that's what it's looking like for the Nationals.
Yep.
Big weekend series coming. Big weekend series.
Honestly, big weekend series. 30 seconds left until we hit our hour mark. So yeah. What is your big point for the weekend?
My big point for the weekend is don't be stupid.
Awesome analysis.
I'm talking to the fans.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, yeah, that's a good point. Not being stupid as a fan, you know, just no matter what happens this weekend, the Nationals are going to be in first place in the National League East on Monday.
Yes.
So that is an extremely valid point.
That's what I'm saying.
With the remaining,
you lose 2 of 3. You still have a 3.5 game lead. Or
well, you took 28 of the 30 seconds. So I'm going to say the offense has to hit with runners on base. That is what to look for. They're going to have to take advantage of some Atlanta Braves pitching, which
beautiful
seems to be very possible considering they've lost 8 in a row.
Very nice.
Well, thank you all for listening to this episode of Nats Talk on the Go. A lot of people joined in this episode. Really appreciate everybody that joined in and listened. If you're listening on the recording later this week, well, you missed a lot of fun because we got to interact and people listened, and it was a great, grand time. But feel free to tweet at us. I'm Joe. He's at Craig Mack. and we'll talk to you guys next time.
Boom.